the Jesus way,
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way,
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me.
Coming to you from the pristine watershed of Camp Myrtlewood in Southern Oregon is this edition of Brethren Voices, featuring Bill Jolliff, who during his journey has been a professor of literature at George Fox University for nearly 3 decades. He's an active writer and researcher. Many students know him as the guy that played banjo on stage during chapel. Hello, I'm Brent Carlson. Welcome to Brethren Voices. Bill Jolliff is known in Brethren circles as a frequent featured performer at the annual Song and Story Fest that has been held for the past 24 years in various places around the United States. Bill Jolliff grew up in Magnetic Springs, Ohio, and Bill says the springs are actually magnetic. Jolliff started playing the guitar and banjo with his grandmother when he was 15 years old. During his high school years, he started forming an interest in American literature, especially the works of Robert Frost and John Steinbeck. He studied English at Ohio State University, where he earned his PhD. Bill had been a professor at Messiah College near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and his teaching has continued for nearly 3 decades at George Fox University in Newberg, Oregon. Bill has continued to play the banjo, creating songs by using his extensive background in literature as a foundation for many of his songs. His musical interests have carried him for 50 years, and we share some of his works and humor in this edition of Brethren Voices.
I often, when Ken sends around the themes, I look at what the themes are, and then I think about what would be really good to go along with that theme, and then I go back and do what I was going to do anyway. But not without having thought about it. But this year I thought, here's a song that I haven't sung for years that I would dig out, because it really fit the idea of a voice crying in the wilderness, I thought. It's another one of those songs that's based on something I read in an old book. And this one is one of my favorite characters from this old book. And I've known about him since I was but a little wee professor with tiny patches on my tweed coat. And what I liked about him was that I'm told that this prophet, it says it right in the scriptures, he was a herdsman and a dresser of sycamore figs. You know who is that? Amos. Somebody nailed it there, bonus points. It's about Amos, who was a herdsman and a dresser of sycamore figs. Now, what I couldn't figure out as a little kid is, how do you dress a fig? And then it struck me that it's the guy who puts the cookie part around the Newton part. Well, how can you not like that? Amos was a preacher man, a prophet of the Lord. He spoke his truth to power, and his tongue cut like a sword. He told the priests and presidents they needed to repent. He told them how God felt about their wicked government. Oh, that Amos walked a lonesome way. Oh, that Amos, well, he had his say. Amos was a rebel, he was loud and he was bold. With a mouth like that, he never had a chance of getting old. Amos did not worry much about some piddly sins. He preached against the systems where the seeds of sin began. to those that made the workers slaves and stole the widow's mite. That's where Amos took his stand and where he pitched his fight. That Amos walked a lonesome way. Oh, that Amos, well, he had his say. Amos was a rebel, he was loud and he was bold. With a mouth like that, he never had much chance of getting old. He did not like religion as he saw it all around, with fancy shows and threats and blows to keep a poor man down. It was nothing but a carnival, and he knew what that meant. Day-old bread and circuses to keep the sheep content. Oh, that Amos walked a lonesome way. Oh, that Amos, well, he had his say. Amos was a rebel, he was loud and he was bold. With a mouth like that, he never had much chance of getting old. Well, I reckon that old Amos did not make too many friends. I'm thinking when his life began, he knew how it might end. He called down kings and bureaucrats, and he never cracked a smile. And they tell us he got murdered, but I hope he died with style. That Amos walked alone some way. Oh, that Amos, well, he had his say. The fine old game of compromise was not the game he'd played. Don't you wonder what old Amos just might preach about today?
Bill Jolliff admits that he really likes some of the old gospel songs, and he really enjoys occasionally working new and different lyrics into those traditional songs and melodies.
You know, I really love the old-time gospel songs. Sometimes I feel almost bad about how much I like them. There's certainly good reasons not to, but they just sort of suit me. And it's one of those situations where, you know, like some of my friends, my high church friends or real progressive friends or Presbyterian friends, you know, they understand this passion. They've heard me perform and they listen to these songs, and I get the feeling that they're in the back of their mind thinking, he's such a nice man, but such taste. Oh well, it's always nice to be tolerated. So I'm going to sing you one of my very pure D favorites right now, and if you happen to know some of it, I hope you'll sing it along with me. Nothing fancy, just a regular old gospel tune that means a whole lot to me. Well, are you weary? Are you heavy-hearted? Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. Are you grieving over joys departed? Tell it to Jesus alone. Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. He is a friend that's well known. You've no other such a friend or brother. Tell it to Jesus alone. Do the tears roll down your cheeks unbidden? Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. Have you fears that to men's eyes are hidden? Jesus alone. Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. He is a friend that's well known. You've no other such a friend or brother. Tell it to Jesus alone. Are you troubled at the thought of dying? Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. For Christ coming daily are you sighing? Tell it to Jesus alone. Tell it to Jesus, tell it to Jesus. He is a friend that's well known. You've no other such a friend or brother. Tell it to Jesus alone. He is a friend that's well known. Tell it to Jesus alone. Well, thank you very much. You know, I had this epiphany about my old-time gospel song fetish the other night. Like a lot of you, I was on YouTube looking around and, you know, kind of surfing between Sufi teachings and primitive Baptist hymns. It's kind of an alternation thing where, because I believe that life needs balance. So, there you go. I got my old buddy JD over here and my old buddy JD over here. Got my JD Vance, got my JD Roomy, and everybody's working out just fine. But this is a serious part. It occurred to me, and I was not kidding about the feeling kind of weird about how much I like these things. It occurred to me that what some of these songs, especially these late 19th century revivalist kind of songs, what they're talking about, at least sometimes, when they talk about Jesus, is the same old thing that JD over here, JD Rumi, is talking about when he's talking about the beloved. JD, I mean, you know, Jalaluddin Rumi. And then I had been teaching a little bit on Rumi, and I started going through some of the Sufi poets and reading them with Jesus, and oddly enough, going through some of the hymns and think, what if this said the beloved? And I understood it the way that and with the sympathy that I give it when I read the Sufi poets. Hold that in mind just a second. I'll tell you something else. There's a story about Daniel Boone, and as we all know, Daniel Boone had to work his way into the evening. But Daniel Boone, you know, was one of the first explorers out on the Cumberland Plateau, and there was no GPS back then. There was no MapQuest. You know, there was not even a house of pancakes to go in. It was awful, and yet he never seemed to get lost. And he was once asked if he'd ever been lost when he was out pioneering on the frontier. And he said, apparently with great honesty, no, I was never lost, but once I was awfully discombobulated for 4 days. Well, I told you that to tell you this, and I'm not kidding. When that thought crossed my mind, that just maybe I could take the old-time gospel tunes and to talk about Jesus with the same seriousness that I take more socially acceptable, politically correct sources, I was discombobulated. I was kind of in a daze for about, I shouldn't have used the word daze, but I was in a daze for 2 days. It was that unsettling to me. And I think in a good way, but I'm not sure. I'm not dead yet, so we'll check. But as I was thinking about that, this is the song that kept coming to my mind. If you know any of it, sing along. There is a place of quiet rest near to the heart of God, a place where sin cannot molest, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. There is a place of comfort sweet, near to the heart of God, a place where we our Savior meet, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. There is a place of full release, near to the heart of God, a place where all is joy and peace, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God. There is a place I long to be, near to the heart of God, where my beloved waits for me, near to the heart of God. Oh, Jesus, blessed Redeemer, sent from the heart of God. Hold us who wait before thee, near to the heart of God.
Southern Voices is in its 16th year of production and has been viewed on over 60 community access TV stations around the whole country. Programs have been downloaded over 1,100 times from pegmedia.org for broadcast on those stations. Programs have been produced from 17 different states and 7 countries. One of our earliest programs was produced in Arctic Village, Alaska, the home of the native Gwich'in people. We have continued a relationship over the years and returned there once again for a visit in 2012. This week, we learned from our dear friend Charlie Sweeney that he was infected by the COVID-19 virus and he had to be quarantined for 14 days. The good news is that he is doing well and has returned to his normal activities. Arctic Village is located 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle. The native Gwich'in people live off the land, and they are at one with the caribou. Sometimes they're called the caribou people. They depend on caribou for their livelihood. We are featuring Bill Jolliff and his music in this edition of Brethren Voices.
So I'm going to do one more number for you here, and we'll see if I will. You'll have to do the harmonica part in your head. Okay. This is a song that I wrote with, not to go into names, but some of the dear folks from this camp in mind that have meant so much to me, and who have taken a kind of, I suppose, almost an iconic sort of representation of what it might be to get old in a godly way. I've got half of that down pretty well. And so here's for working at the other half. If you know the words, please do sing along. In fact, if you know the words, you might be one up on me. But thanks once again. Have a good night. I'm a serious man, I lead a serious life. I got a serious job, I got a serious wife. But the weight of the world can take its toll. Oh why God die and leave me in control? But as my time runs down, I do begin to see just what he might intend for me to be. Just a fool, a holy old fool, too empty to be useful, too funky to be cool. Give me grace and space to laugh at half of what I do, and let me be seriously a holy old fool. Just a holy old fool. I've turned the world, I've felt the strain, I marched for peace, and I've prayed for rain. But the rain don't rock, and the peace don't roll. Between me and you, what do you do with a burned out soul? But as my time runs down, I do begin to see just what the Lord's intending me to be. Just a fool, a holy old fool, too empty to be useful, too funky to be cool. Just to give me grace and space to laugh at half of what I do, and let me be seriously a holy old fool. Just a fool, a holy old fool, too empty to be useful, too funky to be cool. Just give me grace and space to laugh at everything I do, and let me be seriously a holy old fool. Just a holy old fool. Thank you much. I really appreciate it. Give Peg a big hand for that big show. And all those folks.
Thank you for joining us for Brethren Voices. Let us pray that 2021 will be a good year for all of us, allowing us to build a better world of unity based on love and harmony. This is Brent Carlson wishing you peace. And please wear your mask. for others and yourself.
Here's the chorus. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. Try that again. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. Let others seek their home below. I feel like traveling on. Where flames devour and waves o'erflow. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. My sights are on that sacred site. I feel like traveling on. That shines beyond my soul's dark night. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. I'm sailing on that inward sea. I feel like traveling on. Where my beloved waits for me. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. Try that again. I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is bright and fair. I feel like traveling on. Man, I feel like traveling on. Give yourselves a great big hand.